You're listening to another episode of the ANAVIVO podcast. Thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ANAVIVO podcast, Latin for Upward Living. I'm your host, Tim C. Miller, here on hot, sunny, beautiful Whidbey Island, Washington. Tonight, joined by faithful friend and faithful fellow father and faithful fellow philanthropist, Kevin Blas.
Thank you very much.
I need to write that down so it's more. I need more F's to describe my faithful friends. So welcome back to the show, Kevin. We are happy. I'm blessed to have you here on the air again tonight with me. We are going to do a special where we're doing our every other week kind of friendship and fellowship and food hangout time.
Yeah.
But tonight we are doing this recording specifically on a Friday, and I have been blessed to join you in these fasting Fridays. And we started that a couple weeks ago. More F's.
Yeah.
And I think that's been really good to be able to orient my body physically towards worship. And I know it's been hard, especially today for some reason.
And thank you, Grace, for allowing me to stuff my face.
Yes. So we broke our fast in time for a delicious meal made by my delicious wife. And what are you laughing at? And we had
why don't you leave that comment alone?
So we had some very good frozen lemon cookie things that you brought. I appreciate that. How would you describe those?
They're
just
like
raw eggs.
Raw eggs. That's so the kids don't eat them. They think they're raw eggs. Yeah. Cookie dough, lemon meringue cookie dough.
Yeah.
Chocolate chip. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been doing this every sun up to sundown every Friday, fasting, except for today. Yeah, fasting for the purpose of reorienting our bodies, realigning our bodies with our mind and our heart, our spirit, and just honoring the Lord physically in that way. And it has, it sounds like a short time, sun up to sundown. It's not even a full 24 hours, but it's hard when I'm
especially if you add in when you go to sleep the next night, you're technically fasting there too.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Wake up expecting breakfast, and you gotta.
And I work from home a lot, so I'm walking by the kitchen and seeing what Grace is making for the kids for lunch. And my usual MO is to just snack and grab, or grab and snack and dine and dash kind of thing. And
being busy helps.
I can't do that. So I've got to figure out some distraction therapy. But that's what turns me to prayer, which is what it's about. And so. Joining with some friends today that had asked for specific prayers, and it's been good to do that. So I'm happy to be here on the show with you tonight and have you here joining me in the flesh.
Yeah, and we had an awesome off-air exclusive classified.
We did. We just, for our audience, we are recording this on a Friday night, just about 8 o'clock at night, but we've been here now for at least an hour, eating, breaking our fast and fellowshipping together. Thank you, Grace. And also
ranting,
fellowshipping on this just amazing topics on church discipline, church structure,
church history,
fatherhood, father discipline, all sorts of things that we're going through in our life. And so that was really good. If you want to hear that, you'll just have to come in person and hang out with us, because
there is a third chair.
There is a third and fourth. Actually, under that box is another chair, and under that box is another chair, and under this pillow is another chair. So we could have a bunch of you all in the studio.
Yeah, and story time with Tim. Or rant time with Tim.
Just fellowship.
It was good.
And
good to hear you
get
things off your chest.
Authentic, non-recorded. Although we kept our headset and mics on for that whole hour.
A bunch of dummies staring at
each other in the microphone, which is so exciting. So.
Which you think would be awkward, but actually, for some reason, having the headphones on, staring at each other, talking is not as awkward as
Nope.
No mics, no headphones, talking to each other.
Yeah. There's some psychology behind implementing these tools to break out of our shells here. So, and now we are feasting down with our dessert of the evening, which is, in my case, a New Belgium Voodoo Ranger. I am drinking just the straight Voodoo Ranger IPA, and you are
Imperial IPA.
the Imperial IPA. And for those of you who don't know, next week is on Thursday is National IPA Day. And I told you that, Kevin, over dinner.
And I asked what IPA meant.
Yeah,
while,
Oliver asked. We were sitting out there over dinner, and Oliver said, "What's IPA?" Or you asked what IPA?
Yeah, I asked what IPA was, and then you started explaining.
I said, "Oh, IPA. It's an Indian Pale Ale." And immediately Oliver,
as he's poking your white skin,
Oliver cuts me off and pokes my white skin and says,
"Is that you, Dad?
Is that you?" I was like, "Oh man,
that was awesome.
Somebody's got jokes."
Yeah, if your name was only Al, that'd be awesome. Indian Pale Ale.
Native American by blood. I am pretty pale, and so Oliver got 2 of the 3 things right there. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for
that made my day.
Hitting me right in my insecurities.
Even your own child doesn't accept you as
child doesn't know identity crisis. So I will not be Indian anymore, and I will go out and sun myself. No, so we were describing that, and Oliver had jokes, and that brings us to our dad joke. We should save the dad joke. That's a dad joke in of itself because he made it about his dad. Thanks, Oliver.
That was a really good one. But we have one for the end.
We have a dad joke at the end. So stick around for the end of the episode here as we dive into tonight what we want to discuss for those of you joining us around the campfire. I think is a little bit of both macro and micro evolution, but also what that does in terms of our identities and how that affects us physically, specifically. So what I mean by that, where I'm going with that, is we've had a lot of discussion, I know Kevin has, and myself with various friends over the years that find themselves, and even myself included, in a crisis of identity at times, where we just don't know who we are. We don't know if we're being fulfilled in our job or in our life, and what we're looking to do as whatever fathers or mothers or, wherever we find ourselves in life, we're at this crossroad, and some people choose to find that in their work. We know many people who find their identity in their work. We know a lot of people who choose to find that in their kids, and then their kids graduate and they don't know who they are anymore. We know a lot of people that and we're preaching on the choir here, but a lot of folks who find their identity in a relationship and in someone else, something else, even a pet or an item or multiple items. But all of these things, what they have in common is they are all finite. They are all not able to last. They're not immortal. And so that by nature, then they are changing. And most recently, some good friends of mine have expressed that in their homosexuality and in what they've chosen to pursue in their sexual orientation or even their gender identities and things like that. And so it's hard to watch, again, myself included, when I'm going through an identity crisis and I don't know where I am and I struggle. And so then I seek that validation in things that are, or processes that are finite instead of things that are infinite. And so, and those things by nature then will let me down. And so we talked a little bit about evolution here, and I'll let Kevin kind of kick it off. But when it comes to unwrapping this and getting down at the core, we have to take an approach of, okay, where does this come from? Where does this identity crisis come from? Why are we putting our hopes and dreams, our affirmation, seeking affirmation, or encouragement or validation or acceptance from something that is finite, from another person, from a law, from a relationship? We're seeking these finite things from these things that are by nature going to fail or die off or break. And it's because of what we truly believe of where we came from. And that's where I want to kick off tonight's show, because where we came from and what we believe about our existence then focuses us on our future. Where we came from and what we believe about who we are and who we were projects itself into our future. And so traditionally, people will fall into one of two camps, either an agnostic, atheist, scientific, clinical-based camp, and that can have its own spider web of beliefs, but generally speaking, evolution or a Big Bang existence or something that is not outside of itself, a creation that came from within itself, or the other camp of a higher power, whatever that is. Again, also spidering off into its own beliefs, extraterrestrial life force that came down and left a remnant of us here on Earth, a God, a plurality of gods, some sort of avatar-based group life force, whatever that is, but basically something that was outside of creation that then created creation. And so, like in my case, that's the creator God. That's God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, the Trinity of Christianity, evangelical Christianity, and in your case too, that's who I would call is the creator outside of creation that started where I came from, and that's what I believe. But those are really the two camps. I would be very interested in hearing from you, dear listener, if there's a third possibility here that I've overlooked in my ignorance, or if there's a third camp here that I'm just not aware of. But generally speaking, from my limited wisdom and experience, most people fall into either the camp of creation, of we came from somewhere within ourselves, evolution, or a Big Bang, or something that started evolving over time or changing over time, or we came from somewhere that was created outside of ourselves. And so what I want to focus on today, and what Kevin has wisely brought up, is this evolution side of the first camp, and why that affects us in our identity today, specifically in the roles of men and women, or the emoji you just sent me.
Yeah, the pregnant man emoji.
Apparently, Apple phones now, I have an Android, so I'm not aware of this, but he just sent me this. One of the emojis they have now is a man holding his pregnant belly, which we're going to call a beer belly.
Yeah, so maybe we're just offending all the guys that have beer belly. So maybe it's not a pregnant man. Maybe
it certainly looks like a man holding and rubbing his belly and holding it tenderly,
especially when it's right next to the other pregnant woman.
It is in the category
or the gender neutral pregnant person.
Pregnant woman.
Yeah.
So that is pretty funny, but Apple has apparently not
propagated.
I mean they've decided to say that against all odds, a biological male can get pregnant, and we're going to make an emoji to represent that. Yeah. And so,
and I'm going to say it right here on air: if that can actually happen without any crazy GMO, weird scientist playing God, and that actually happens naturally, then I will give you everything. I will give you my life savings, which is not much. Or when I die, you can have my my life insurance. Yeah, and all my cats. So
all my.
It's not happening. I'm going to say it right here, right now. Not happening.
Not happening.
Yeah. So, and if it does happen, it's unnatural, and it's some kind of weird clone.
Well, it's just we all know. I think that's the point. Is that it's not like like we're shocked, right? It's not like we're caught off guard. Like what? A biological male can carry a baby. Like if you don't already know that, it's simply just ignorance, right? Because we've been lied to or brainwashed, manipulated so much that we are just truly unaware that a man can't get pregnant. But by and large, most of us know that men cannot get pregnant. And so to have a representation of that in the form of an emoji, or to affirm that in somebody, is affirming a mental insanity, a disorder that needs a root cause adjustment, right? We're treating or playing with the symptoms of what really is going on at the heart of what that person believes where they came from. Yep. And if you believe that you evolved or came from a creation in of itself, in from itself, I could see that then making sense because like, well, we evolved from monkeys, or we evolved from this, or we evolved in this way. Why can't a male evolve into carrying to term a child?
And if evolution was actually real, why hasn't men, have been able to evolve into at least men who can have babies, or change over to women and have babies, or women, well, they can have babies, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, why can't women have babies?
You know where I was going with that, where they can switch over and, I don't want to get too graphic, but, become a man. Obviously, there's surgeries that synthetically make you look like a man or look like a woman, but you're still biologically whatever you're created to be.
Right, and we're for the purpose of this discussion, it's always important. Most of the times when we watch these ridiculous YouTube or TikTok videos or whatever people are watching that are just the extremes, the fringes of society, most of the time it's a lack of discussion around the terms of what we're talking about here. So to be clear, what we're talking about are the X and Y chromosomes of a biological male and female. There, of course, are many instances of people born with females born with male genitalia, or men born with female, and
I think it's called asexual. Is that
there is a term for it.
But it's basically an organ that doesn't work,
right? So it's the same. It's just a genetic defect of you
have one working part, but the other part is a defect. It's a sign of the fall of man, a birth defect.
Right. And so.
And nothing against those people, because that's just like twins that are born, their heads together.
Yeah,
we don't look at them and mock them. Those people, I'm sure they feel totally different, and they want to be one or the other. You know what I mean?
Right. And so, as in that defense, I can take the position of the created and say, okay, I'm in this camp of we all are come from within ourselves, and so therefore. This isn't a defect that should be hated or is a repercussion of sin, but it's actually something that our bodies are starting to adapt and eventually will grow into, and maybe down the line will evolve into this woman. So I could see that side of the defense, but then also, like you said, from our camp of no, we were created pre-fall in perfect form, and then post-fall. Now sin has entered the world. We've got all of these defects, physical and mental, and among anything. So, and we all have various defects of different kinds. But what we're talking about here and discussing is this biological male-female difference. XY chromosomes can't just scientifically cannot get pregnant, right? And so, it's a mockery to endorse or affirm that, because it just shows those that know better that the person affirming is just mocking. It's like saying to Apple, I know you're not that stupid.
You're not exactly.
You're geniuses. You make this amazing product. So
this technology to where you can call someone in a different time zone, but you can't figure out if a man can.
Right, they're not stupid, and so then it just becomes this mockery of like, wow, you're really putting down this person who is truly hurt or lost or having this crisis and doesn't know who they are, and really and may even really believe that a man can get pregnant, and you're exasperating this, you're making fun of it, so it's hard to not feel pity or even embarrassment for, but really it's hard to not just feel sad for not just the company, but then like, man, compassion for these people that are truly lost in this mindset of like, I really believe that a man can get pregnant, and look, Apple's telling me this, and other people are telling me this, and it should be okay. It's like, hey, I'm sick, I need a doctor, but all of you are telling me I'm not sick.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're just going to continue going through cancer and die because we're all not willing to tell you that you've got cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how sad is that, to love somebody all the way to the gates of hell?
Yeah.
I saw this great, The Onion was the pre-Babylon Bee
Oh yeah, it was like the liberal side of satire, wasn't it?
I don't know where they fell politically, but it was it's hilarious. One of my favorite ones, one of the first ones I ever watched, one of my favorite ones was this guy that they brought on the Onion show, who I think the title was something like "Man Beats Cancer by Denying That He Has Cancer." And there was this guy who's being interviewed on this news channel, and he's clearly like his face is falling off, his fingers are falling off, like he's lost all his fingernails, his hair's coming out in clumps, and he's sitting there next to his wife, and she's saying, "I'm just so proud of Johnny," or whatever his name.
Yeah.
He's beating him again. He's beat those doctors. Every time they tell him he has cancer, and the news reporter's like, "Johnny, how did you do it? We all need to know." And Johnny's like, they told me I had cancer, and I told them no. And everyone's like clapping, like, "Good job, Johnny. You did it. You beat cancer." And he's clearly falling apart on TV, and he's like,
you don't see us, we're shaking our head back and forth.
A clump of hair falls out on the floor, and his wife's patting him on the back like, "You did it." And it, in mockery, it's hilarious because it's like, clearly this guy is ridden with cancer.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious because he's like, "I just told those doctors, I just stood up to them time and time again and told them no."
Yeah.
And it's hilarious from a satire perspective, comedy perspective. But if you take that same process and mindset and you apply it to what's happening in the homosexual movement, in any identity crisis, a gender disorientation movement, and even in our own sin lives of our own sin that we practice, you apply that, and it's no longer comedy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely sad and should be terrifying, because if I truly believe that God is real, right? Like, if I'm not just doing this because it's fun and they've got free coffee at church, like, if I truly believe that there is a God and he is who he says he is, and he loves us the way he loves us, and he is going, there is a hell also. If I truly, truly believe that, I should want nothing more than to, with every fiber of my being, help these people who are sick.
Yeah.
And bring them back to health, nurse them back to health in every way that I know how.
Yeah.
And it's not love to just say, "Oh, let it happen. You don't have cancer. Great job. You stood up to those doctors."
Yeah.
Like, it's no longer funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause then
You're missing this point. And these people, Lord willing, will come out 20 years from now, will come back and say, "Wow, I was in that movement for 20 years. I finally got out of it for whatever reason.
Yep.
And it's because I didn't have a good father figure, or it's because I didn't have this, or whatever they look at
sometimes
the root cause."
it stems from tragedy or
right.
or
Absolutely. Yeah. But for them, I never want them to look back and say, "I didn't have one Christian come alongside me, and instead of making fun of me, instead of mocking me, instead of judging me and standing on the corner and saying, 'You're going to hell,' I didn't have one loving brother or sister come alongside me and say, 'I love you so much that I want to show you a better way.'"
Yeah. Yeah.
If somebody's getting out of this movement 20 years down the road and have just lost that 20 years of their life, thankfully there's still time, but I never want them to feel that way. And so we have to have this, like, just this empathy, this compassion, to love them the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back to health.
Yep.
To nurse them back to health.
I mean, it goes all the way back to the Holy Spirit is the one that convicts us in our sin that we're even lost, because if he doesn't, then we're just on our merry way, right over to hell, and
Totally ignorant.
Yeah, people might be saying, "Oh, they're headed to hell," and it's like,
well, tell me that.
Yeah, tell me that, and
come
then
save me.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
like the movie Case for Christ, where the wife is praying for her atheist husband who's trying to disprove Christianity and ends up proving it right.
Yeah,
and he submits himself and repents and turns towards Christ, and the wife the whole time is praying over that passage, saying, take the stone heart away from my husband and give him a heart of flesh, meaning take away that hard heart and give him a heart that actually pumps and gives him life and is soft and pliable and is able to work. And that's what we have to do as Christians is go to those people in love, and they might think we're nuts, they might think we're crazy, or they might hate us for what we say. But if we keep saying it in love and kindness, but firmly, We don't want to be wishy-washy, because then they're not going to at least even respect us.
Right.
If we're going back and forth, or we're kind of barely telling them a little bit of truth, or over the top. There's definitely, I think the word's tact, right?
Yeah.
A tacticalness to it, to where you're coming at them with pure intentions to give them the love of Christ and give them the truth, but know that, like, hey, they may totally hate me for this, or they may not even accept it, or just say, go jump off a bridge or whatever,
Right.
and go pound sand. But at least they were exposed to the truth, and then they could
Right.
deal with it, and let that kind of sit in their heart, or even pester them, so to speak. That way they have to wrestle with it, because then when they choose not to believe it, then at least we know that we're trying. And, I wouldn't say just one and done, unless
Right.
it's someone that's just randomly passing you. You'll never see them again. Yeah, I get that. But if it's someone that is daily in your life, like a lost coworker or family member, or just anybody that you usually see, take that time to, I wouldn't say win them over, but earn their trust, because no matter what you tell them, they'll be like, yeah, I don't agree with you, or I think you're nuts, but I understand where you're coming from. Like, I know that you are for me, and you're not
Right.
there just to, like, have your phone ready to see the kind of crazy reaction I have, but you're just having an off-air conversation with me
Yeah.
in genuineness, because you care about my well-being. And on our side, we definitely care. We want to see them in heaven someday, and we want to hear, what God does in their life, flips them 180, and then they do that and spread that fire somewhere else, and give it to somebody else. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. And it's equally convicting to those of us who are believers. And I'm calling out all of my fellow believers right now on the air, to have, like you said, offline conversations, because
there's no fame to it.
there's no fame. And I don't know a single person who's ever been convinced by a Facebook post
Yeah.
another way.
That's actually probably why I got a Facebook, because it was
You know,
I was arguing too much with my own Christian people, or
right.
I was
I mean,
making myself look like an idiot.
the social media programs are designed to be resounding walls of people that already know, like, and trust ourselves, right? And so putting out a post, or putting out an idea or something that is controversial or convicting, ends up shaming those that are already with you, and also ends up turning away the people that the one-off chance that that post reaches someone who's not against you, And so, by and large, I've never heard of someone coming and saying, "Wow, I'm so glad that post was there, because your sound logic and excellent discourse was just exactly what I needed to hear to turn me away from my crazy ideas." It's like, by and large, it's all fighting, and it's all, and same with the news, and same with, the whole point is Satan distracting us from a good thing, and that good thing is relationships. That good thing is one-on-one. The hour we had before this podcast of relating and being off air and authentic and true, and there's a level of transparency there, where I'm looking you in your eyes and you're in my eyes, and we have to be respectful of each other, right? Where you don't have that on a keyboard, and you can, you do out with all sense of human chivalry and civility,
and all the smugness is gone, because you have that, like, hey, this person might actually punch me in the face.
Yeah, well, there's a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
There's also a little bit, there should be respect. It's like,
exactly,
this is a fellow human being who we see totally different. Let's have a real civilized conversation. And we've lost that ability in our day and age of polarizing, where we just quickly judge, mic drop, and walk away.
And it's like, like, we're going to leave this personal conversation. And you might go and protest, Antifa protest, and it gets crazy violent, and I might go and hold up a MAGA sign, and there's things that I believe in that are correct, but there's also a certainness to that movement that's a little bit too proud and arrogant, and that's not Christian like. But also I wouldn't say there's anything good about Antifa, but there's a good thing about protesting, when there's wrong and you peacefully protest.
Yeah.
But there's also, like, the Antifa part, which is not good.
Right.
So, like, when you have that personal conversation, you both go away. You can even learn something from the person who's not a believer. For one, God's teaching you humbleness, because if you go to them proudly, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to win them over to Christ. It's like, no, God's in charge. He's the one that is captivating their hearts. Jesus Christ already paid for it all, and is ready to give it to those that are willing to follow after him and repent and receive. We are simply just his megaphone or his seed planters, and we walk away, and to the best of our ability, we plant it as correctly as we can, and then we come back and try to attend to it, but just being like faithful farmers,
Yeah.
They wait on the rain. They do everything they can to make sure that that seed has the best chance to grow, but leave it up to, and I would assume, I guess not all farmers, but they trust God that, hey, the rain's going to come and the harvest is going to come.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I had a friend and client email me back about one of I send out a newsletter every Thursday, and in the newsletter I'll put a one of these episodes or a thought, and he emailed me back and brought up a really good point about one of our previous episodes, which relates to this one, in that the difference between empathy and acceptance, essentially, and having being compassionate towards somebody else that you disagree with versus accepting that person that you disagree with. The difference there he mentioned was this fine line between chaos and creativity. And I emailed him back. I said, I need to have you on the air because I need to flesh this out more. But at least from what I took away from that it was just an excellent point of how we define truth for ourselves and who is that authority in that fine line. Like the fine line between chaos and creativity. Okay, you're an amazing drum player, Kevin.
Out of practice, but I guess so.
When does that drum playing turn from chaos into music?
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Like, where is that point,
Yeah.
Now, a lot of it comes with practice, but there's points where you're even are an amazing drummer now, but it could still be totally chaos.
Yeah.
And that could be because you're angry or because you're out of practice.
Yeah, out of practice, yeah. No,
you've had too many IPAs. Like, there's a point where that chaos turns into creativity, and likewise that creativity devolves back into chaos.
Yeah, that's a good point. Never thought about it that way.
And whose authority, who determines that? And it could be you, it could be the listener. I may like it. Somebody right next to me could say, that's total chaos.
Yeah.
And so all of our truth is subjective, and there is truth to that. There's truth that all of our truth is relative, subjective. But there has to be this ultimate standing truth, this guideline, this principle that sets us apart and gives us an innate, instinctual knowledge of what right and wrong is, of what truth is. And we all have that. I think in back to the camp of non-believers is what I'll call them, people that would say we evolved or we came from creation in of itself.
Yeah.
To that group, their ultimate authority is usually the government or themselves in some form.
Yeah.
And they may have a general, even a greater humanism. Okay, life is valuable, life is whatever, but it's very arbitrary, and that's why they can argue eloquently that killing unborn children is okay, right? Because they don't have their authority is themselves. Their determination of where value is or where creativity versus chaos is themselves, or is the government
or
law,
whoever's the strongest,
in their tribe, or whoever their role model is, whoever their influencer is, like whatever that is, that defining line for them or that majority of people is totally subjective, versus the other camp, where I would say, okay, us as believers, we all agree that this is the law, and this law is scripture, and this law came from God, and that sets us all at this common denominator. And so therefore we can say, okay, we do value that life, versus a non-believer would say, I don't, because I don't believe in this or whatever. And so, but that fine line between chaos and creativity comes from this interpretation of what we hold or who we hold as an authority. And I think that's that's why I want to bring him on and flesh this out more, because I like going down these rabbit trails. But But that's a crucial question that we can't even begin to address the symptoms of homosexuality or the symptoms of pornography or the symptoms of, I'm naming sexual sins, which tend to be more prevalent, but anything, alcoholism, anything that we struggle with as a human race, we can't begin to identify these symptoms of that sin until we identify the core sin, which I believe and hold to is idolatry, and where we say, I am my own authority, or who I decide is authority, versus, no, there is an authority above and outside of myself, and that authority is, in this case, God. And if we hold to that common authority and we say, okay, that is my defining characteristic, now we have to admit that there are said laws to that, just like you admit to the other side, like, okay, if the government's the authority, okay, the government has its own laws, but one side will descend into chaos because they all are varying interpretations, and your drumming is amazing to somebody and not amazing to somebody else. And on the other side, where it's all one standard, it's like, okay, it should not be chaos. It should be a harmony. It should be where we all may have differences in how we had talked about our, Christianity's viewpoints on creation, whether it's truly a 6-day creation, 7-day he rested, or whether it's millions of years. Like, we can disagree on those things and still be saved, and to a point, but there's harmony in that because there's a solid foundational truth that we can come to together. And obviously one interpretation of that can extrapolate out and get really crazy if we take it too far. And so that's where we've got to be cautious. But
and I would say the cautiousness would be
chaos and creativity. The chaos descends when we.
Yeah, I think you overstep the bounds of God's creativity. I guess to use that analogy, if you step outside of his bounds, it's chaos.
Yeah.
And I think, for one, I guess I just think very logically, like simply, and I believe the Bible, although God is outside of time, outside of our understanding fully, and we cannot contain him into our way of thinking. He's the one that created time for us. He does not have time created for him. He is time. He is infinite. No one tells him what to do. He is his own will.
That's what makes him God.
Yeah. And so for someone not to believe that God, take the Bible at its word, 6 days and then he rested. For one, why do we have 7-day work weeks? Why don't we have 7 million day work weeks?
You sent me that text, and I had only ever heard of that in passing before, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you why we have 24 hours, and I can use the planets and stars to make that alignment. Yeah. But I can't tell you why we have.
There's no
7-day weeks.
Yeah, there's no
I can even tell you why we have 365 days.
Exactly.
It's a rotation of the sun, and I can use science to do that.
Yeah, there's no science that tells us why we have a week.
Why do we have a week? Why 7 days and not 8? Why not just 2 days?
But something does tell us, which is the Bible. And so to go back to that, I guess the cautiousness before it becomes chaos is, if we don't take the beginning of the Bible at its word, and we have to be careful too that we don't take everything of the Bible literally, because there's symbolism, there's poetry, there's songs, there's literal historical facts, genealogy.
Right.
You have to make sure that you understand what the author of each book, who they're writing to, the context of it, when it was written.
This is why we all have so many different in Christianity.
Yeah.
This is why we have different denominations, is because we can agree on the core values of salvation, the tenets of salvation, but then totally disagree on, is that poetry or not poetry, for better or for worse.
Yeah. And I guess, so my thing would be to warn, I guess, is that if we can't take the foundation of creation at its word, that God created everything in 6 days and rested on the 7th day, but that there's this gap, or there's millions of years here and there that introduces secular humanism into it, then how can we trust that Jesus Christ rose on the 3rd day? Was it 3 days, or was it 3 million years?
Right.
And I'm not learned enough to be like, try to take the world's, not even like the lowest class evolutionists, and try to combat them, But
you're not unlearned.
yeah, but logically it makes sense. And I think when we try to add so much time into something that doesn't need all that much time, because God is powerful. If he's all powerful, why do we have to use all his time?
Right.
It takes I think it takes the creative specialness out of his power.
Right. Right.
And why are we trying to take that into our own hands to explain it away when they're just letting God? That's what he said.
Yeah.
Take him at his word. And so I guess that would be my caution is, if we can't take that literally, then why are we going to take the Jesus Christ coming at, being born of the Holy Spirit in the Virgin Mary, living a perfect life for 30 whatever years, dying on the cross, being our supplemental sacrifice, and then rising on the third day? It's like, well, how do you make that timeline serious if you don't take the Genesis timeline?
Right,
So,
right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then it would be my caution to be like, okay, well then, are you a Christian? And I say that not to condemn anybody, but I say that like,
No, it's good conviction.
yeah, if it offends somebody, it's like, well, back up.
Yeah.
You're telling me that there's millions of years in between, and then people say, oh well, a day is like 1,000 years to God, and 1,000 years like a day. It's like, yeah, because he's outside of time, and that's, from what I understand, that's him explaining his patience into seeing people come to Christ. That has that in my eyes, that doesn't have anything to go back to Genesis where it's saying, oh yeah, well the first day might have been 1,000 years.
Right.
Yeah, it might have been 1,000 years for us to make it, which we can never do. And if evolution was real, sorry, I'm on a soapbox.
No,
I'll go for a second and I'll take a breath. Why is everything devolving, so to speak? Why are we going into chaos instead of creativity? And we do have creativity. But if you read the Bible, it clearly explains why we have all this stuff, why we have all this sin, destruction, death, murder, all this horrible stuff. And God has this plan to restore us.
Right.
So I guess that's my point. It's like that, to me, disproves evolution. And if you look at the history of evolution, the founders, Darwin, in his book of, what is it? Species, Origin of Species, or Species of Origin. There's parts where he states that a certain race isn't as, I don't know how you say it.
Beneficial.
Yeah, beneficial or prim and proper, or they're savages. And so that's where you get into that chaos where if you're a government or if you're a higher learner or a higher thinker, you use the evolutionist term.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the stronger one, so we don't really need them. And if you're an evolutionist, it's like, well, yeah, why do I care? I mean, they're sucking out of the universe the energy that we need to survive more. So you don't care about life. And it's the same with abortion, murdering babies, and it just goes on and on. That's why we're surprised that we have genocide,
Right. And back to everybody's truth, right? If you're not a believer, if you don't believe that there's a higher power with a standard for us to live and uphold to, then your standard is your own, right? And so then your standard can be justified as her body, her choice, or it can be justified as a superior and inferior race. And in the same way, yeah, absolutely right. Darwin had that hierarchy of human species with white at the top. It was just as racist as they come. And it's like, okay. And he held to that because he's an evolutionist, and by his evolutionary doctrine and his own standards, it had to be the Aryan supremacy because of X, Y, and Z, whatever that he believes about evolution. But we can, that's the 1800s. We can look forward now and say, science has progressed so much. We can see the telomeres of our cells, that are degrading over time, not growing over time, or our parts of our biology and genes that are breaking down generation to generation, not increasing generation to generation.
Yeah, why aren't people living longer?
It's like, it was hilarious to me. I went to Coopville High School here on the island when I got into high school. I was there my freshman year, and in the hallway, this was before they rebuilt their the new school that they have now. But in their old hallway, they had all these photographs of the previous generations of students that had gone through Coopville. And I remember walking down the hallway as a freshman, and I'm looking at these other seniors' pictures that are black and white, and they're all in suits. None of them have acne. they all look like adults to me. You know, they're
grown men,
like,
women.
These are grown men and women. I'm like, these are college kids or these are high school? These are high schoolers? Like, I'm looking around the high schoolers I see now. And,
Wait, is this the staff here at Coupeville?
Yeah, exactly. And we've all got chains and makeup all over. And, you know, also, you know,
greasy
faces and hairs and the food we eat and the stuff we do that's just, you know, not healthy for us. And I'm comparing myself to these other older generations. And like, wow, they are like, was it just their old cameras didn't pick up their poor pores, you know? Like,
they had that 144p resolution.
Like, what am I looking at here that these all look like full adults here? But, you know, that's a small example. But
I mean, it makes sense, though. It's,
you know, we've been degrading over time, not getting better.
Yeah.
So it can't be the idea, strictly speaking, of evolution. That particular idea can't be. It worked for the 1800s. It worked for when Hitler needed to write his manifesto.
Exactly.
It worked for, you know, situations where we needed to justify our standard. And if I believe my standard is to be supreme and you're not, I need everything in science to tell me that.
Yep.
And so,
and I would encourage people to dive deep into every single genocide that you can and see if that you know, like just like a court case, you know, see where the evidence lies, and if it always goes back to someone who's an evolutionist. Now obviously maybe it's not the case, but I think Hitler was one of them that either he had some mentor or somebody that a books that he was reading, and the writer was a devout evolutionist, you know.
right.
And he was like, oh, yeah, this makes sense, you know.
Right. Yeah. When you stray from God, and really to kind of bring it back here to our generation and to end in an encouragement way, or to wrap this up in an encouragement way, Satan wants, or whatever you would call evil, even non-believers believe in evil and good somehow.
Yeah, even atheists say that this is right and wrong, even though they don't have a leg to stand on. Because if you're atheist, there's no God, so there's no moral standard.
Right, exactly. So
But
whatever they're calling evil, whatever you're calling evil, that I would call the influence of Satan and his minions, whatever that evil is, or whatever you get, wherever you believe your innate version of right or wrong comes from, the little Jiminy Cricket in your mind. You know, it has to be founded on something. And in our day and age, I would argue that for us, this idea for Satan specifically, his goal is to distract us from doing better. And that's specifically for us as believers. His attack is not to unbelievers. He already has them, right? His attack is to us as believers. And so what can he do? He can't take us away from God. He can't take our soul and take our salvation. But what he can do is distract us all the way up until death.
Yep.
And make us totally ineffective for the kingdom. And some great ways that he does that for us as believers are through the media and news cycles where we believe that Fox News is Christian, or where we believe that Republicans are Christian.
Yeah, which is funny because unless I got this wrong, the guy who runs Fox News is an atheist.
Oh.
Which is crazy because everybody thinks, Fox News conservative, that means Christian.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever
now, there
it
might
is.
be people on there that are Christian. But.
Sure, yeah. But we get into, you know, especially here in America, we wrap our religion up into a political party, or into an idea, or into a president, or into this nonsense that we get so overworked at for these things that don't matter. Mm-hmm. And we look back and we say, man, I was so passionate. I was so on fire for this. I was so engaged. And it's like, dude, that's going to die.
Yeah.
Like that's not everlasting.
Yeah.
Like, and so for us as believers to get so politicized, to get so on fire for these things, and then yet shy away from our boldness of sharing our faith, sharing our testimony, sharing why God is good in our life, and we focus on this negativity just like the rest of the world. It's Satan's schemes of polarizing us, of making us so just one-sided that we lose the creativity. We descend into our own version of chaos, where we just become consumers. We're either couch potatoes and we're just totally consuming, media and content and until we die.
Yeah.
Or we're becoming just chaos, our own version of chaos, and descending into what this news station said and this, and did you hear what happened here? And look at this crazy meme, and how can people be doing this? We get so bitter and angry. It's amazing our lives are as long as they are with our artery problem of shutting down from the stress of that.
Yeah.
But if we can turn our hearts back to God and see this world through his eyes, would he see this world and relate to others around him in that way? Or would he relate to people of sadness and say, this is sad. This, you need a hug. You need to be loved back to my love, to my unending glory, to my unending patience, to my unending trust and safety and authenticity and genuineness. And
he showed that through Jesus too.
Right.
Didn't sugarcoat it, but he loved people.
Yeah. So, I think that's what I want to end this particular episode on is it's very easy for us to rally around each other and find someone else like ourselves of oh, you also think this? Oh yeah, let's go do this. And it's okay, that may be great as a recreational activity, but who are we at our core? Who are we at our identity? And that identity can only be strengthened as we follow Christ, and then turned around to help others as we ought to follow Christ. And we were talking about this off air. That's the reason we were left here. We were saved, you and I, and others, many others, chosen by God and saved and left here. we weren't saved and immediately raptured to heaven, as awesome as that would have been. God in his mercy and grace drew me to himself and revealed himself to me in his love and patience, and brought me into a redeeming, spiritual and wonderful relationship with him, a father who is above all else, above all of creation, and is a anchor, a stronghold in my life of chaos, and someone I can rely on forever, for eternity. And he brought me out of that chaos to gift me with this everlasting life. And then he left me here while here on earth, this physical domain, for two reasons, and which he reveals in the book of Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew. And he says, I didn't come to do away with the law, I came to fulfill the law. And the law can be summed up in these two things. One, love me with all of your heart, mind, and soul. Love God the Father with all your heart, mind, soul. And two, love your neighbor as yourself. Love each other as yourself. And so our whole purpose here isn't to devolve into chaos and into arguments and into political parties and into whatever. Our purpose here is to encourage each other as we see his day approaching, and to bring others into also the same peace.
Yeah. And just hearing you talk about that, it just reminded me, I'm listening to a lot of sermons. That's where I get a lot of my inspiration. But the pastor talks about
better podcast.
Yeah, no, this is good. Maybe not what I'm on, but when you're on. And he's just saying that, we need to get outside of just saving our family, or I did my job with my family. Okay, let's go. Reach outside of it, because if not, we're just being selfish with the gift that God has given us.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ didn't just die for a certain amount of people,
Right.
And I don't want to go into saying, oh, well, Jesus is desperate to have you, and he'll go back on the cross. Jesus was obedient to his Father to give him glory. Every time you hear about Jesus talking about the Father, they're always in communion with each other. They're always giving each other glory, or this is my beloved Son. The Holy Spirit comes down upon Jesus, and they're one. So it's not like one's just on this or God set me down here. I'm the Son. I'm doing my what do you call that?
My missionary journey.
Yeah, and I'll get back to the Father when they're always in communion.
My penance.
Yeah, and so I guess just when you were talking about that, it just reminded me just to be foundational in correctly leading my family, but also going out, because just like the church, we want our pastors to correctly preach and teach us, make us good disciples, well-trained disciples, so we can go out and do the job, because they're going to go back into their rooms and continue to study.
Right.
That way they can train us so we can go out, because they have a hard enough job doing what they do, trying to wrangle us, sheep.
Dealing with me on a podcast.
Yeah. Off air. But I don't know. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's just kind of what I was thinking about. And if I could add one question that our old former junior high youth advisor said to me. I think we were doing a creation versus evolution thing, and it's I wouldn't say it's biblical in the sense of it's anywhere in the Bible, but just the question, asking any believer, any Christian, anybody, Buddhist, Muslim, whatever, it's like, okay, ask yourself the question, like, if you're wrong, I'm speaking as a Christian, if you're wrong, you go to hell, I get to have heaven, not because I deserve it, but because of everything God did, Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit, and then, getting me to realize I need to repent and receive him in faith.
Yeah.
I get to go to heaven, and unfortunately, if you don't believe that gospel, that true gospel, then you go to hell.
Right.
But there's good news. You can receive that too. But if I'm wrong, and if I'm just totally wrong, and you're right, the evolutionist, I just become worm food. Like, it sounds sad, but it's like, I will not remember anything. I will die. Yeah, people will mourn me. My children will be sad. My wife will be sad. But I will have no pain still. So, like, it's a win-win. And you know what I mean? Like, on our side, it's like,
right.
We win because we go to heaven, and if we lose, we still win because there's no pain and hurt, Right. But if you lose, if you get this wrong, there's pain forever. And that's not to condemn you, but that's just, it's a warning.
Yeah.
Like, the house is burning, get out of the house.
They call that the fire insurance philosophy.
Yeah, and that's obviously not where we stay. That's, we want people
that may be enough to scare people into thinking it's a great question.
Yeah, I guess that's just a question.
No, it causes you to critically think, which is good. We don't have that. That was how many years ago for us? Don't say it on the air, but there was a lot of years ago.
Yeah, a lot of years ago.
And our kids don't critically think.
Yeah.
Now, we do our best, I think, as fathers to try to teach them how to critically think. But there's a lot of our generation, a lot of the next generation that just takes straight consumers, farm to table. There's no critically thinking going on and discernment if something being said is the truth or not. They just take it as
even
gospel.
If it's someone quote unquote Christian. Like, we should always question everything, not because the Bible has contradictions, but who is saying it, regardless of how much you trust them. Make sure that make sure me and Tim are saying it right.
Right.
I'm sure there's plenty of things that we said on here that's not theologically correct, sound,
whatever.
whatever.
We're gonna regret these conversations 20 years from now.
Yeah. Like, pray about it, ask God for wisdom, go to his word. Because I don't think we even said a verse on here recently, which, we're just having a conversation, but, like, don't trust anybody besides God in his word. And if they're saying something, no matter how many degrees they have from a Christian college or whatever, or how much you trust them, read the Bible like you don't trust them.
Yeah. Right. Yep. That's good. So critically thinking and those kinds of questions, the fire insurance of, like, that helps people critically think about where they are and who they are and where they came from. And, to bring this all the way back to the beginning of the conversation here, we are where we are now, and we are going where we are going because of what we believe in our past. And Dr. Richard Haynes, who I've had on the air here before, wrote a great series called The Pie of Mem. That's the first book, is The Pie of Mem, and he's got 4 books total. The fourth
he has one in making, right?
Coming out, right now.
That one's called The Life of Mem?
The Truth of Mem.
Okay, I'm actually listened to that on...
the third one is the Heart of Mem.
Yeah, I'm listening on PDF because
nice.
I'm too lazy to read. And actually, so it's totally, like, random.
Side note.
Yeah, I did, like, a 3-day trial where it reads it for, it's an app that reads it, it scans your PDF.
Okay.
And there's only a few voices that I recognized. One was Gwyneth Paltrow, and the other one was Snoop Dogg. I was like, I'm totally having Snoop Dogg. And it was actually pretty interesting.
Wait, on Adobe Reader.
Yeah, it's
you can have Snoop Dogg read.
I think it's called Screenify, or it's like Screenify or something like that. It's one of the different. And so he's all like, "Yo, for show." So it was pretty awesome. But I didn't listen to it long enough to get past the 3 days because it would have been like $100 something for a year, and I hardly read. So
they read Will they read anything that's in
Yeah.
PDF format?
And it sounds a little bit weird, like almost like someone who's a different language, because like if there's like a live, there's either live or live, and so
Okay.
like a lot of times Snoop Dogg was saying he didn't live correctly,
Right,
you know,
because
so,
it's
but I
not
understood.
really Snoop Dogg. It's the AI that is generating.
Yeah, like he
the
reads
word
all
format.
these letters
Yeah.
or all these words, and then they put it together.
Right. Yeah.
But it made enough sense where I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Got about halfway, almost halfway. So
It's no longer the content I'm interested in.
Yeah,
It's
you just
who's
wanna-
reading.
next will be Lil Wayne.
Yeah. He never learned anything. Well, anyway. What was I?
I don't know where you were going.
Dr. Haynes.
Yeah, there you
Dr.
go.
Haynes has a series. He's been on the air here a couple episodes, and he wrote this great fictional series called The Pie of Mem, or that's the name of the first book, about this planet of people, Memlandians, that live out on this flat planet. Actually,
And they have memnesia.
And they have memnesia.
Yeah,
That's right.
I thought Snoop
Good
Dogg.
memory.
Well, I thought Snoop Dogg was just.
How'd you remember that with your memnesia?
Yeah, I thought he was trying to say amnesia, but because he's Snoop Dogg, I thought he like snooped it up. I was like, is he trying to say amnesia?
He's
But then
just trying to be cool.
now it's actually meant.
The
Okay.
AI Snoop Dogg
Yeah.
is making it really cool. No,
Anyways,
the
I'm sorry, I keep-
Memlandians have memnesia,
Okay,
which
yeah.
is similar to our amnesia. Yeah.
Basically, like disbelief.
Right. Well, they lose their mind so the group of people, and not to get into his books too much, but the planet is divided into 3 countries, and
Okay.
each of the populations of these three countries lose their
Memory.
memory
Okay.
altogether frequently. So, like,
Yeah.
the first country, the Daytonians, sorry, they all lose their.
Are they a bunch of rednecks
memory.
that watch IndyCar racing?
No, they lose it every day.
Oh, okay.
So their memory loss happens around noon every day for a period of 20 minutes or 40
Oh,
minutes or
okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then the Weeklanders, because it happens once a week,
That's pretty clever. Love it.
their memory loss is unique to them on a unique day of the week. So like mine would be every Tuesday
Mm-hmm.
for an hour or whatever, 20 minutes. And then the Yearlanders or something like that is that they lose theirs once a year, but it could be for like several months
Oh wow.
at a
Okay.
time. So, anyway, this whole series, he writes about this. It's sort of analogous.
I know what you're trying to say, but I can't say it either.
Analogous. It's
Algorithmic.
It's similar to our society. To humans.
Anagorical. Is that the word?
Animalgolus. It's similar to our society similar to humans, but one of his main points in the third book, The Truth of Mem, he's some of the characters that you're reading about in this crime syndicate, and I won't ruin the book for you, are trying to come up with different ways to subvert and control other Memlandians, other people.
Mm-hmm.
And they throw out, they're on this ship and they throw out all these different ideas, like just crazy ideas. But you read into these ideas and you're like, wait a minute, that's actually happening in America, or that's happened before in this genocide in Uganda.
It's like
or
the
this
author
happened
knows a lot about
over
history.
here. It's like the author has studied that. Yeah, so, but there are all these psychological things that really would work to subvert. I mean, one of the examples is when the CIA overthrew a particular government that we can talk about off air, but they used they came in as part of the people themselves to cause a youth revolt
Yeah.
in the college students, that then the youth themselves of that native country overthrew the
Does it have
government.
anything to do with the colors of red and yellow?
Had a coup.
A little twinkly twinkly.
No, I'm winking at you
No?
across the podcast here. Anyway, so the Memlandians have, they do a similar sort of thing. So anyway, all of that to say, Dr. Haynes is one of his points in that particular section is that because the Memlandians don't know who they are because of their memory loss and because they had forgotten the truth of how they could get rid of that memnesia, they were destined to succumb to the same problems in their future, or they were destined to
Like Drew Barrymore on 51st Dates.
essentially. Yeah,
Sorry, that was in my head.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, it's exactly like that. Like the same thing every day, but they don't know who they are, or they're struggling with their core identity, their fulfillment, their purpose of life, this greater transcendent question. because they don't know where they came from. And
Yeah.
so this idea of knowing your past to know your future is sort of a thread through that
Okay.
particular book. And
Is there a little black book throughout?
yes.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
because I'm listening to it, and there's a little black book, and I'm assuming that it has something to do with
Yeah,
Bible-ish.
that's the secret of
or is
how
that their
you
history?
can get rid of your amnesia.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like Narnia-esque because it has a Christian aspect, but it's about like life on other planets.
Yes.
And yeah, okay.
He's a former NASA guy,
Yeah,
engineer.
I totally can hear
psychiatrist, so.
Dick Haynes' history and writing because the one I'm listening to, I won't because I don't even know if he wants people to be talking about it, but
His newest one?
yeah, his newest one I'm listening to is very. I can see Dick Haynes writing about himself. Yeah,
Voice
yeah,
in
like
it,
and just from what I know about him and his
Right.
UFO or what does he call something else? UFO, yeah. UFO endeavors.
Yeah.
So and just like the picture on the back of one of his books, I think it was. What's that one that he did with the UFO? And he's a younger version of himself. And he's like standing with a bunch of other NASA people.
Oh, he was the senior scientific project coordinator, lead something for NARCAP, which is the anonymous, now turned government whistleblowing agency for, or tip line essentially for pilots and other air professionals to report unexplained sightings without losing their job.
Yeah,
and he was their chief scientist for years.
And his book, that book I think I'm thinking of is like something of the fifth kind. Or,
yes.
Yeah. Anyways, he's on the back and it looks like he's around like a round table of like brainstormers. And
other eggheads that are brilliant in their own way.
And so anyways, listening to what the new book will be about, I just picture him. That's him. Like, because the guy's name is Mem. No, the guy's name is
the main character is William.
William, yeah.
With the book, yeah.
Mem is
Mem is the
planet,
the nation of people.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like Americans.
I'm a little slow, so I probably have to
Memlandians.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. You're not slow. You're listening to it in Snoop Dogg's AI voice. You're listening to the you're not here for the content.
Every now and then I hear Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg. La, da, da, da.
That's not Gwyneth Paltrow, huh?
Yeah, no.
That was the other option?
No.
That's hilarious. Well, let's wrap this up with a good old-fashioned dad joke.
Okay.
I guess before we go into that, to our listeners out there who have been faithfully following us along in these many podcasts for myself and Kevin and others here on the show, and also just in this one episode, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience as we meander back and forth along our own line of truth here,
and humoring us
with the understanding of ideas. And I hope that at the end of this, you would walk away with some actionable items, because I am a business person at heart, and I like to give you a strategic goal, a plan for your future. And one of those would be kind of what you had asked, Kevin, just to critically think about who you are, what you believe, where you have come from, what you believe about your own origins and the origins of mankind, and what the implications of that belief are for your future. And should you have any questions or concerns or cries of outrage, as my old Sunday school teacher would have said, please email me, tim.c.miller@outlook.com. I'd love to also learn from you and share some of those thoughts as well on future episodes. I hope it's been encouragement for those of you also who have listening, and for future Tim, I hope that you don't delete this podcast when you're an old man and look back at yourself in incredulity and silliness. So this is who you were, and this is where
the course of history from that.
Well, this is where I'm coming from.
Don't go back and change it if you have a time machine.
What does this mean for my future? Okay, on to probably the good part of this episode.
This one's definitely not as good as Oliver's, yeah. Oliver's was spontaneous. That slayed, man. That was
poking my arm. Are you an Indian? Pale,
and he
pale Indian. Dude, what are you saying?
The logic of a child is just like, Dad's Indian of descent.
My dad is Indian.
Skin is pale.
He's a pale Indian.
He's drinking and he's poking. I was just, man, I about lost it.
You about to spit out your food.
Yeah. If only your name was Al. Okay, anyways. This one's pretty lame, actually. I just Googled it. Why was the jalapeno cold?
Oh. Why was the jalapeno cold? He was shivering. He was cold. He was outside. He wasn't spicy enough. He didn't have his his seeds. He was a jalap.
That's a different joke.
This? He was jalapeno business.
That was one of the jokes on there, but
okay,
it's because he was a little chilly.
Oh, nice.
And on that note,
all right. Well, Kevin, as always, it's been an honor and a privilege and a blessing to have your camaraderie and academic here and thoughtfulness and insight. I appreciate that.
It was an honor to hear the off-air exclusive content.
That was good. I should have just secretly hit record, although we probably, I don't know what would
Someone's
happen.
listening.
Someone's listening somewhere. All right, folks, and as my kids would say,
thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the ANAVIVO podcast. We welcome your feedback and ideas. You can learn more about us by simply Googling the word ANAVIVO. This podcast is supported by listeners like you. I am a licensed real estate broker with Compass Real Estate and a nationwide real estate matchmaker. We consult with you for free, find and vet the right real estate professional that specializes in the area and niche you need, are paid by that professional, and they get clients like yourself who want and need their unique specialty or winning track record. If you or someone you know is in the market to buy or sell real estate anywhere in the U.S., don't simply web search the highest paying advertiser. Let us use our licensed experience to find and vet the real and best professional for you. It costs you nothing but a phone call or email with me, and has saved my clients financially and emotionally. I'd be honored to serve, and you can reach me direct by email at tim.c.miller@outlook.com. And as always, to God be the glory.